Hey there, everyone. Welcome to the very first day of our journey together, 30 Days of Faith. I'm so glad you're here because today we're kicking things off with something simple yet powerful, starting your day with God. Think about it. How do you usually begin your mornings? Maybe you roll out of bed, grab your phone, and scroll through notifications. Or maybe you're like me some days, hitting snooze 5 times before dragging yourself to the coffee pot. Life's busy, right? And mornings can feel like a race before they even start. But what if we could change that? What if the first thing we did was turn our hearts to something bigger? That's what this video's all about. Over the next hour and a half, we're going to dive deep into why starting your day with God matters, how it's changed my life, and how you can make it part of yours. I'll share a story about a morning that nearly broke me until a quiet moment with God turned it around. We'll look at Psalm 143, verse 8, where it says, "Let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love," and unpack what that means for us today. Plus, I'll give you some easy, practical steps to try tomorrow. Nothing complicated, just real stuff that works. This isn't about being perfect or having it all together. It's about taking one small step to let faith shape your day. So, whether you're sipping coffee, driving to work, or winding down tonight, stick with me. Grab a notebook if you want, or just listen in. We're in this together, and I can't wait to see where these 30 days take us. Let's get started. All right, let's dive into the heart of this video. Why starting your day with God is such a big deal. I mean, think about it. The morning is like the steering wheel of your day. Where you point it, that's where you're going. If you start off stressed, distracted, or just rushing through, the rest of the day tends to follow that vibe. But when you begin with God, something shifts. It's not magic. It's not like all your problems vanish, but it's like setting a compass. It gives you direction, a sense of purpose, and a little bit of peace to carry with you. So, why does this matter? First off, mornings are a fresh start. Every single day you get a clean slate. The sun comes up, the birds start chirping. Well, maybe not if you're in the city, but you get the idea. It's a reset button, and the Bible backs this up. In Psalm 143, verse 8, David prays, "Let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love, for I have put my trust in you. Show me the way I should go, for to you I entrust my life." That's powerful stuff. David's saying, "God, before anything else, remind me you love me. Point me in the right direction." And that's exactly what we need too. A reminder that we're not alone, that there's a plan, even when life feels chaotic. Let's break this down a bit. That phrase, unfailing love, in the Hebrew is chesed. It's this deep, loyal, never giving up kind of love. Imagine waking up and the first thing you hear isn't your alarm blaring or your kids yelling, but a whisper from God saying, "Hey, I've got you. I'm not going anywhere." That's what David's asking for, and it's what we can ask for too. It's not just poetry. It's a promise. Studies even show that people who start their day with some kind of mindfulness or prayer feel less anxious. Now, I'm not saying faith is just a stress hack, but it's kind of cool that science lines up with what the Bible's been saying forever, right? But here's the practical side. Mornings shape your mindset. Ever notice how a bad start, like spilling coffee on your shirt or getting stuck in traffic, can throw you off all day? It's because our brains latch on to that first impression. Flip that around. When you start with God, you're training your mind to look for hope instead of hassle. I read somewhere that it takes about 21 days to build a habit. So, imagine doing this for 30 days with us. By the end, it could be second nature. You wake up, and instead of dread, you feel a little spark of trust. That's worth it, don't you think? Now, I know what some of you might be saying. I'm not a morning person. Trust me, I get it. I used to think mornings were just for surviving, not thriving. But here's the thing. Starting with God doesn't mean you have to bounce out of bed like a sitcom character. It can be quiet, simple, even sleepy. Maybe you're still in bed, eyes half open, just mumbling, "God, help me today." That counts. It's not about how loud or long you pray. It's about who you're turning to first. Let's talk about David for a sec. He wrote Psalm 143 when he was in a mess. He was running from enemies, hiding in caves, probably exhausted. Yet he still said, "Morning's my time to hear from you, God." If he could do it in a cave, we can do it in our kitchens or cars or wherever we are. Life's messy for us too. Work stress, family stuff, bills piling up. But that's exactly why we need this. Starting with God isn't escaping reality, it's facing it with backup. Here's another angle. It's about priorities. Jesus said in Matthew 6:33, "Seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." Seek first, not after emails, not after breakfast. First. Why? Because what you put first sets the tone. If I start with my to-do list, I'm already anxious. If I start with God, I'm reminded there's something bigger than my schedule. It's like tuning an instrument. Get that first note right, and the rest falls into place. Let's get real for a minute. I've had mornings where I skip this. Phone in hand, scrolling news, and 10 minutes later, I'm grumpy. The world's loud. Ads, headlines, opinions. It all piles on fast. Starting with God is like putting up a filter. It doesn't block everything, but it helps you sort through the noise. Ever tried it? Maybe you've got a routine already. Prayer, a devotional, a quick thank you. If you do, you know it's like a shield. If you don't, that's okay. We're starting today. So picture this. Tomorrow morning, you wake up. Before the chaos hits, you take 10 seconds, literally just 10 seconds, and say, "God, I'm here. Show me the way." That's it. Doesn't need to be fancy. Over these next few thousand words, I'm going to hammer this home. Mornings matter because they're your chance to anchor yourself. Not in your strength, not in your coffee, though I love coffee, but in something unshakable. Let's dig deeper into Psalm 143, verse 8. David's not just asking for love, he's asking for direction. Show me the way I should go. How many of us wake up wondering, what am I even doing today? Maybe you've got a big meeting, a tough conversation, or just a pile of laundry staring you down. Life's full of choices, big and small. Starting with God is like handing Him the map and saying, "You lead." It's not that He'll whisper turn-by-turn directions like a GPS, though that'd be nice, but He gives you clarity. Ever had one of those days where everything feels foggy? A moment with God can cut through that. And then there's trust. David says, "For to you I entrust my life." That's huge. Waking up and giving your day to God isn't just a feel-good ritual. It's an act of surrender. It's saying, "I don't have it all figured out, but you do." I'll be honest, surrender's not my strong suit. I like control. I like knowing what's next. But mornings remind me I'm not the boss of everything. God is. And that's a relief, isn't it? Let's flip back to the practical for a bit. Ever heard of the phrase, win the morning, win the day? It's a thing people say in self-help books, and they're not wrong. But here's the Christian twist. Winning the morning isn't about hustling harder. It's about resting deeper. Resting in God. You don't have to earn His love or prove yourself before the sun's up. You just show up. That's enough. Now, let's imagine a typical morning without this. Alarm goes off. Ugh. You stumble to the bathroom, check your phone, see 15 emails, and suddenly, you're stressing about a deadline you forgot. Sound familiar? That's how I used to roll. And by 9 a.m., I was already done, mentally checked out. But when I started pausing, even for a minute, to say, "God, I need you," it was like hitting reset. Not every day's perfect, But it's better. Why else does this matter? Because the world doesn't wait. You step out that door, or even just into your home office, and it's game on. People want stuff from you. Problems pop up. Starting with God builds a buffer. It's like putting on armor before the battle. Ephesians 6 talks about the armor of God: faith, truth, peace. That starts in the quiet of the morning, before the emails, before the noise. Let's zoom out a little. Mornings aren't just about you. They're about who you'll meet that day. Your spouse, your kids, your co-workers. They feel the ripple of how you start. If you're frazzled, they get that version of you. If you're grounded, they get a better one. I've seen it in my own life. When I skip God, I'm short-tempered by noon. When I don't, I've got a little more grace to give. Back to Psalm 143, verse 8, unfailing love. That's not a one-time thing. God's not like, cool, I told you I loved you yesterday, figure it out. No, every morning, it's fresh. Lamentations 3, 22-23 says, His mercies are new every morning, new every day. That means no matter how yesterday went, good, bad, or ugly, today's a do-over. Starting with God taps you into that. Let's talk culture for a sec. In America, we're obsessed with productivity. Get up, grind, win. And I'm not knocking that. I like getting stuff done. But faith flips the script. It's not about doing more, it's about being more, being loved, being led. You can't productivity hack your way into peace. It's a gift. And mornings are when you unwrap it. Here's a question. What's the first thing you think about when you wake up? For me, it used to be, what's stressing me out today? Now, I'm trying to shift that to, God, what do you have for me? It's not always easy. Old habits die hard. But even asking the question changes something. What about you? What's your first thought? Let's circle back to David. He wasn't some superhuman king with perfect faith. He was a guy with problems, big ones. Chased by Saul, betrayed by friends, stuck in the wilderness. Yet he chose mornings to cry out. Why? Because he knew his strength wouldn't cut it. He needed God's. And we're no different. Maybe your wilderness is a cubicle or a messy house, but the need's the same. Practically speaking, starting with God rewires you over time. It's not instant, I wish it were, but little by little you notice the difference. You're less rattled by traffic. You're kinder to the barista who got your order wrong. It's not that life gets easier, it's that you get steadier. Faith does that. Let's paint a picture. Tomorrow, you wake up. Maybe it's dark out. Maybe the kids are already loud. Before you do anything else, you take a breath and say, God, I trust you today. That's it. No sermon, no hour-long prayer, just that. Over these 30 days, we'll build on it. But that's where it starts. Why else? Because mornings are universal. Rich, poor, young, old, we all get them. They level the playing field. You don't need a fancy setup or a theology degree. You just need a moment, and God meets you there. That's the beauty of it. He's not waiting for you to get your act together. He's already there when your eyes open. Let's lean into that chesed love again. It's not flimsy. It's not conditional. It's the kind of love that holds up when everything else falls apart. Starting your day with that? That's a game changer. It's not about feelings. Some mornings you won't feel anything. But it's about truth. And the truth is, you're loved before you even brush your teeth. So, why mornings? Because they're yours to claim. The world will take the rest of your day, your boss, your inbox, your responsibilities. But those first few minutes, they're yours. And when you give them to God, He gives you something back. Perspective, hope, a little piece of eternity before the clock starts ticking. Let's wrap this part up. Starting with God matters because it's where faith begins. Not at church on Sunday, not in some big moment. It's right there, blurry-eyed and bedheaded when you say, "Okay, God, let's do this." That's what David knew. That's what Jesus modeled. And that's what we're stepping into today. We've got a story coming up next, mine actually, about a morning I almost lost it and how God pulled me back. But for now, let this settle. Your morning's waiting. What will you do with it? Okay, so we've talked about why starting your day with God matters. Now let me tell you a story. It's personal, it's messy, and it's real. This happened a few months back, and it's one of those mornings that sticks with you. I promise it's not some perfect polished tale. I'm not that guy. But it's a moment where I saw firsthand what a little faith in the morning can do. Stick with me. I think you'll relate. It was a Tuesday. Random, nothing special about it. I woke up to my alarm screaming at me, 6:15 a.m., and I already knew it was going to be one of those days. You ever have that feeling? Like, before your feet even hit the floor, you're behind? That was me. My phone buzzed with a work email. My boss needed a report by noon, and I hadn't even started it. Great. Then I remembered my car had a flat tire from the night before, and I still had to drop my kid off at school. Oh, and the dog? Yeah, he chewed up my favorite pair of shoes. I'm talking chaos before the coffee was even brewed. So I stumbled out of bed, grumpy as all get out. My wife, she's a saint, asked, "You okay?" I just grunted something incoherent and shuffled to the kitchen. The coffee maker decided it was the perfect day to break, spilling grounds all over the counter. At that point, I was done. I wanted to crawl back into bed and call it quits before 7 a.m. Ever been there? Where everything piles up so fast you can't even think straight? That was my morning, and it was unraveling like a bad movie. Normally, I'd just power through, push past the mess, grit my teeth, and deal. But that day, something stopped me. I don't know why. Maybe I was too tired to fight it, but I remembered something I'd heard at church. Give your day to God before it takes you. It sounded cheesy then, but in that moment, with coffee grounds on my hands and a flat tire waiting outside, it hit different. So I did something I don't always do. I prayed. Right there in the kitchen, no fancy words, no big production. Just me, standing by the sink, muttering, "God, I can't do this today. Help me, please." It wasn't dramatic. No angels sang, no light shone through the window. But I took a deep breath, and for some reason, I felt a tiny shift. Like, maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought. I wiped the counter, grabbed a granola bar instead of coffee, and decided to tackle one thing at a time. First, the tire. I called a friend who lived nearby. He's one of those handy types, and he swung by with a spare. While he fixed it, I sat on the porch and tried praying again. This time, I said, "God, thanks for today. Even though it's a mess, show me what to do." It felt awkward, but I kept going. Here's where it gets interesting. My kid came out, she's 8, and asked why I was sitting there talking to myself. I laughed, probably for the first time that morning, and told her, I'm talking to God." She shrugged, like kids do, and said, "Cool. Can we get donuts after school?" And just like that, the weight lifted a little more. I don't know. Maybe it was her innocence. Maybe it was the laugh. But I started to feel human again. The tire got fixed, and I dropped her off at school. No donuts yet, but I promised we'd figure it out. Then I headed to work, still stressed about that report. On the drive, I kept the radio off. Usually, I'd blast music to drown out my thoughts. But this time, I just talked to God in my head. I don't know how I'm going to finish this, but I trust you. It wasn't a sermon. It was desperate, but it felt real. At the office, I sat down, opened my laptop, and started typing. The words didn't magically flow. I'm no superhero. But I wasn't panicking either. I kept thinking about that line from Psalm 143, verse 8. Show me the way I should go. I'd read it the night before, and it stuck with me. Maybe God wasn't going to write the report for me, but He was there, keeping me steady. By 11:45, I hit send. It wasn't perfect, but it was done. My boss didn't yell, "Miracle of miracles," and the day moved on. Looking back, that morning wasn't a win because everything went right. The tire was still a hassle, the coffee maker was still busted, and my shoes were still toast. But it was a win because I didn't lose myself in it. That little prayer in the kitchen, it wasn't much, but it was enough. It didn't fix the mess, it fixed me, or at least it started to. Let's unpack this a bit. Why did it work? I think it's because I stopped trying to carry it all. You know how we do that? We wake up, see the problems, and think, I've got to solve this alone. But that day, I didn't. I handed it over, not in some grand way, just a quiet, help me. And God showed up, not with a thunderbolt, but with a friend, a kid's goofy question, and just enough calm to get through. Ever had a morning like that? Where it's all falling apart and you're one step from giving up? Maybe it's not a flat tire for you. Maybe it's a fight with your spouse, a sick kid, or a bill you can't pay. The details change, but the weight's the same. And that's where starting with God comes in. It's not about erasing the hard stuff. It's about facing it with someone stronger. Here's what I learned. It's not the size of the prayer that matters. I didn't kneel or quote scripture. I barely got the words out, but it was honest. And I think God honors that. Hebrews 4:16 says we can approach God's throne of grace with confidence, not because we're perfect, but because He's good. That morning, I stumbled toward Him, and He met me halfway. Let's rewind to that kitchen moment. I could have kept spiraling, cursed the coffee maker, snapped at my wife, rushed out the door mad. I'd done it before. But this time, I paused. And that pause? It was everything. It's like hitting the brakes on a runaway train, just enough to stop the crash. Ever tried that? Just stopping, even for 10 seconds, to say, God, I'm here? It sounds too simple, but it's not. The rest of that day wasn't flawless. I forgot to pack my lunch, so I was starving by 3 p.m. The dog gave me those guilty eyes when I got home, and yeah, I still had to figure out the shoe situation. But here's the difference. I didn't feel crushed. I laughed with my daughter about donuts. I thanked my friend for the tire. I even survived the report. That's what starting with God did. It didn't change the day, it changed me in it. Let's zoom out. This isn't just my story, it's ours. We all have mornings that test us. Maybe yours is tomorrow, maybe it's been today. The flat tires and broken coffee makers of life don't stop coming. But starting with God gives you a lifeline. It's not a guarantee of easy. It's a promise of enough. Enough strength, enough peace, enough grace to keep going. So picture that Tuesday again. Me, standing there, coffee grounds everywhere, feeling like the world's against me. Now picture me taking that shaky breath and whispering, God, help. That's where it turned. Not because I'm some spiritual giant, I'm not, but because He's big enough for both of us. Psalm 46:1 says, God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Ever-present. Even at 6:30 a.m. with a flat tire and a chewed-up shoe. Why am I telling you this? Because it's not about me. It's about what's possible. If I can trip into a moment with God and come out steadier, you can too. You don't need a perfect morning. You don't need a quiet house or a fancy prayer. You just need to show up, messy, tired, whatever, and say something. Anything. God, I'm here. God, I'm lost. God, I need you. He hears it. Let's get practical for a second. That day taught me mornings aren't about control. I can't stop tires from going flat or dogs from chewing stuff. But I can control where I turn. And turning to God? That's the game changer. It's not a one-time thing either. Since then, I've had good days and bad ones. Some mornings, I forget and dive straight into the chaos. But when I remember, it's different. Here's a little detail I left out. After I prayed, I found an old travel mug of coffee in the fridge, left over from who knows when. It was cold, but it was caffeine. I microwaved it, took a sip, and smiled. It wasn't the fix I wanted, but it was enough to keep me moving. That's what God does. He doesn't always give you the Hollywood ending, but He gives you enough. Let's circle back to that kid moment. My daughter asking about donuts. It's silly, but it's gold. Sometimes God sends help in big ways, like a friend with a tire. Sometimes it's small, like a kid making you laugh when you're about to cry. That morning, I got both. And it started with that sloppy, half-asleep prayer. What's your version of that? Maybe it's not a flat tire. Maybe it's a deadline, a breakup, a doctor's appointment. Whatever it is, the principle's the same. Start with God, and you're not starting alone. I didn't feel it right away. I was still stressed, still scrambling, but by noon, I could see it. I wasn't carrying it all anymore. Let's wrap this story up. That Tuesday didn't end with fireworks. I got home, ordered pizza because cooking wasn't happening, and crashed on the couch. But I went to bed thankful, not because it was perfect, but because I made it. And that prayer? It was the thread that held it together. It wasn't long, it wasn't pretty, He gives you enough, but it was real. So, here's the takeaway. Your mornings don't have to be disasters to need God. But when they are, He's there. And when they aren't, He's still there. That's what I learned that day. Starting with Him doesn't make the chaos disappear, but it makes it bearable. Next up, we'll talk about how to actually do this, practical steps you can try. But for now, let my messy morning sink in. If it worked for me, it can work for you. All right, we've talked about why mornings matter, and I've shared my messy Tuesday story. Now, let's get to the how. How do you actually start your day with God? I'm not talking about some hour-long ritual that requires candles and a theology degree. Nope, this is for real people, busy people, tired people, people like you and me who maybe aren't even sure where to begin. I've got 3 simple steps that I've leaned on, and I'll break them down so you can try them tomorrow. They're not fancy, but they work. Ready? Let's do this. Step 1. Breathe. Yeah, I know, you're already breathing. Congrats, you're alive. But I mean really breathe. Take a second before the day swallows you whole to just stop and feel the air in your lungs. Here's why. When you're rushing, your body's in panic mode, heart racing, mind spinning. A deep breath slows that down. It's like telling your brain, hey, we're okay. And it's a natural opener to prayer. You don't have to say anything yet. Just inhale, exhale, and let yourself be. Let me paint a picture. You wake up. Alarms blaring, your dog's barking, whatever. Instead of jumping straight into the chaos, you sit up, close your eyes for 5 seconds, and breathe. In through your nose, out through your mouth. That's it. Sounds too easy, right? But try it. I started doing this after that crazy Tuesday I told you about. I'd be halfway to the kitchen, stressed out of my mind, and I'd stop, right there in the hallway, and breathe. It's like hitting pause. And in that pause, I'd feel this tiny space open up for God. Why does this matter? Because prayer isn't just words, it's presence. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." Being still starts with your body. You can't hear God or anyone if you're running at 1,000,000 miles an hour. That breath, it's your first step to slowing down. And here's a bonus. Science says deep breathing lowers stress hormones. I'm no doctor, but I'll take all the help I can get, especially at 6 a.m. Okay, step 2, thank Him. Once you've breathed, say something, anything, to thank God. Doesn't have to be profound. Could be, God, thanks for this day, or thanks that I'm awake, or even thanks for coffee, even if the machine's busted. The point is, start with gratitude. It flips your focus. Instead of zeroing in on what's wrong, like my flat tire or chewed up shoes, you notice what's right. And there's always something, even on the worst days. Let's try it right now. Humor me. Take a breath. Go ahead. I'll wait. In. Out. Now, think of one thing you're thankful for today. Maybe it's the roof over your head, the fact you've got this video to listen to, or that your kid didn't wake you up at 3 a.m. Got it? Now say it in your head. God, thanks for that. How'd that feel? For me, it's like a reset button. After that Tuesday prayer, I started thanking God for dumb stuff, like my friend showing up with a tire. It wasn't big, but it mattered. Gratitude's powerful. The Bible's full of it. 1 Thessalonians 5:18 says, "Give thanks in all circumstances." All circumstances. Even when your morning's a train wreck. Why? Because it shifts your eyes to God. I used to wake up listing my problems, work, bills, you name it. Now, I try to list something good first. It's not fake positivity, it's choosing where to look. And here's the kicker. It doesn't have to be long, 5 seconds. God, thanks. Done. Step 3. Ask for guidance. This is where you invite God into your day. Say something like, God, show me the way today. Or, help me with this mess. Or, lead me because I've got no clue. It's simple, but it's huge. You're not just thanking Him, you're trusting Him. Back to Psalm 143, verse 8. Show me the way I should go, for to you I entrust my life. That's what David did, and it's what we're doing here. Let's break it down. You've breathed. You're calm. You've thanked Him. You're focused. Now ask. Picture your day. Maybe you've got a tough meeting, a kid's doctor appointment, or just laundry piling up. Whatever it is, hand it over. God, I've got this report due. Help me focus. Or, I'm scared about this call. Give me peace. It's not a script. It's a conversation. And you don't need to overthink it. Just talk. Here's how it looked for me that Tuesday. After breathing by the sink, I said, God, thanks for this day, even though it's nuts. Then, please help me figure out this tire and the report. I'm drowning. That was it. Maybe 15 seconds. And you know what? Things didn't magically fix themselves, but I felt less lost. My friend showed up. The report got done. Was it God? I think so. Not in a flashy way, but in a quiet, I've got you way. Let's put this together. Tomorrow morning, try this. Wake up, breathe for 5 seconds. In, out. Then, God, thanks for something. Pick anything. Then, show me the way today. That's it. Less than 30 seconds. You can do it in bed, in the shower, wherever. No pressure, no perfection. Just you and God, starting the day. Why these 3 steps? Because they're doable. I'm not a monk. I don't have hours to meditate. I've got a job, a family, a dog that eats my stuff. This fits. Breathe, thank, ask. It's a rhythm, and it's flexible. Some days I've got 2 minutes, so I linger. Other days it's 10 seconds while brushing my teeth. It still counts. Let's get real. Does this feel weird at first? Maybe. I felt silly that Tuesday, mumbling to myself in the kitchen. My wife probably thought I'd lost it. But the more I did it, the less awkward it got. It's like learning to ride a bike. Wobbly at first, then smooth. Give it a week. Heck, give it these 30 days with us. You'll see. Here's a tip. Keep it short to start. Long prayers are great, but if you're new to this or just exhausted, short's fine. Jesus said in Matthew 6:7, not to babble on like pagans, God knows what you need. So, God, thanks, help is enough. You're not performing, you're connecting. Let's imagine it failing. Say you try this tomorrow and the phone rings mid-breath, or your kid spills juice everywhere. That's okay. Life happens. Pick it back up. I've had mornings where I get 2 words out, God, thanks, and then the dog's chewing something again. I laugh, deal with it, and try later. It's not about nailing it, it's about showing up. Why breathe first? Because it grounds you. Ever notice how Jesus went off to quiet places to pray? He knew noise drowns out God. Your morning's noisy, alarms, traffic, thoughts. Breathing cuts through that. I've done it in the car, stuck in traffic. Works there too. Why thank next? Because it's hope. Colossians 3:15 says, let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts and be thankful. Gratitude's like a door. It lets peace in. That Tuesday, thanking God for my friend didn't fix the tire, but it reminded me I wasn't alone. Try it. Find one thing, even tiny. Why ask last? Because it's trust. Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. He will make your paths straight. Asking God to lead isn't weakness, it's strength. That Tuesday, I didn't know how to get through. I asked, and He showed me, step by step. Let's practice again. Breathe, in, out. God, thanks for this moment. Show me what's next. How's that? Takes 10 seconds, tops. You could do it right now listening to this. Go ahead, I dare you. Here's a story to tie it in. A friend of mine, she's a single mom, told me she started doing this. Her mornings were insane. 2 kids, no coffee, pure chaos. She'd breathe while packing lunches, thank God for her kids, even when they drove her nuts, and ask for patience. She said it didn't stop the madness, but it stopped her from yelling. That's real. What's your chaos? Maybe it's work, maybe it's family. Whatever it is, these steps fit. Breathe to calm down, thank to look up, ask to move forward. It's not a fix-all, it's a start, and starting's what matters. Let's zoom out. Prayer's not a formula, it's a relationship. These steps, they're just a way in. Some days I skip one, breathe and ask no thanks. Some days I add stuff. God, help my wife today too. It's yours to tweak. The point is, you're turning to Him first. Why does this work? Because God's already there. Jeremiah 29:12 says, you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen. He's not hiding, waiting for you to get it right. He's listening. Messy prayers, sleepy prayers, all of it. Let's wrap this up. Tomorrow, try it. Breathe, thank, ask. Doesn't matter if you're late, tired, or the dog's barking, just do it. I started that Tuesday with no clue what I was doing, and it held me together. You don't need to be good at this. You just need to start. Next, we'll talk about what this leads to, the benefits. But for now, take these steps and run with them. You've got this. Okay, we've covered why mornings matter, my chaotic Tuesday story, and how to pray with those 3 simple steps. Breathe, thank, ask. Now let's talk about what you get out of it. What's the payoff for starting your day with God? I'm not here to sell you a miracle cure. Life's still going to throw flat tires and broken coffee makers your way. But this habit, it changes something. It's not about fixing everything. It's about equipping you to face it. I've seen it in my own life, and I'll bet you will too. Let's break down the big 3 benefits: peace, focus, and connection. Then I've got a challenge for you. Ready? Here we go. First up, peace. You know that feeling when everything's spinning? Work's piling up, kids are loud, your inbox is a war zone? Starting with God doesn't stop the spin, but it gives you a calm spot in the middle. Think of it like the eye of a hurricane. Chaos all around, but you've got this quiet center. Philippians 4:6-7 says, Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds. That's not just a nice verse, it's a promise. Prayer trades anxiety for peace. Let me tell you how this played out for me. After that Tuesday, I shared flat tire, report stress, all of it. I kept trying this prayer thing. Not every day was a disaster, but most days had something. One morning, I woke up worried about a doctor's appointment. Nothing huge, just routine, but my brain was running wild. What if it's bad news? What if I can't handle it? I did the steps, breathed by the window, thanked God for my health so far, asked Him to calm me down. Did the worry vanish? Nope, but it shrank. By the time I got to the doctor, I wasn't a wreck. That's peace, not perfect, but real. Why does this happen? Because you're not carrying it alone. When you pray, you hand stuff over. It's like dropping a heavy backpack. You still have to walk, but you're not crushed. Ever felt that? Maybe not yet, but stick with this. It builds. I'm no Zen master, but those few seconds of prayer have saved me from spiraling more times than I can count. Next benefit, focus. Life's a mess of distractions, phone buzzing, to-do list growing, random thoughts popping up. Starting with God is like putting blinders on a horse. It narrows your view to what matters. Psalm 143, verse 8 again. Show me the way I should go. When you ask that, you're not just wandering through your day, you've got a direction. It's not that you'll never get sidetracked, but you've got a North Star to come back to. Here's an example. A week after that Tuesday, I had a crazy day ahead. Meetings, errands, picking up my kid. Normally, I'd bounce from one thing to the next, half panicked, forgetting half my list. But I prayed that morning, breathed, thanked God for my family, asked Him to guide my steps. Did I nail everything? Nah, I forgot to buy milk, but I stayed on track better. The meeting didn't rattle me. The errands got done, and I wasn't a stressed out dad by pickup time. Focus isn't about perfection, it's about clarity. Why focus? Because we waste so much energy on the wrong stuff. Ever spend an hour worrying about something that never happens? I have. Prayer cuts through that. It's like tuning a radio. Static clears, and you hear the signal. For me, that signal's God saying, "Hey, I've got this. Do what's in front of you." It's practical, helps me work smarter, yell less, actually enjoy my day a little. Third benefit, connection. This is the big one. Starting with God isn't just a self-help trick, it's a relationship. You're not talking to thin air, you're talking to the one who made you. John 15:5 says, "I am the vine, you are the branches. Apart from me, you can do nothing." Prayer plugs you in. It's not about what you get done, it's about who you're with. And that connection, it's what keeps you going when the other stuff fades. Let's go back to my story. That Tuesday, the tire got fixed, the report got sent, but the real win was feeling God there. Not in some mystical vision, but in the quiet after I prayed. I felt known. Like, okay, He sees me in this mess. Ever had that? Maybe it's been a while, or never, but it's there for you. Starting your day with Him builds that bond. It's not instant. I'm still figuring it out, but it grows. Why does connection matter? Because we're wired for it. You can have the best job, the perfect family, all the coffee in the world, and still feel empty. I've been there, checking boxes but missing something. Prayer fills that. It's not loud or flashy, it's steady. Like a friend who's always there, even when you're too busy to notice. Let's tie these together. Peace calms your heart. Less freaking out, more breathing room. Focus sharpens your mind. Less scatter, more purpose. Connection feeds your soul. Less alone, more loved. None of it's instant. You won't wake up tomorrow feeling like a saint, but it stacks up. One morning becomes two, becomes a week, and suddenly you're different. Not fixed, just stronger. Here's proof from my life. After a month of this, spotty at first, I'll admit, I noticed I wasn't as snappy. My wife said I seemed lighter. Was it all prayer? Maybe not. I got better coffee too, but it helped. That doctor's appointment morning, I'd have been a mess without it. Instead, I walked in steady. Small wins, big impact. What about you? Imagine this. A week from now, you've done this every day. Breathe, thank, ask. Maybe your boss yells less because you're not tense. Maybe you notice the sunrise instead of your phone. Maybe you feel God closer, even just a little. That's what's on the table. Not a perfect life, a better one. Let's get practical. Peace doesn't mean no problems. It means you handle them better. That Tuesday, I still had a flat tire, but I didn't lose it. Focus doesn't mean no mistakes. I forgot the milk, but I got the big stuff done. Connection doesn't mean you hear God's voice every time. I don't. But you know He's listening. It's not magic. It's muscle. You build it. Why 7 days? Because it's a start. I read somewhere it takes 21 days for a habit, but 7's enough to taste it. Try this for a week, starting tomorrow. Breathe, thank, ask. 5 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever you've got. Then see. I bet you'll feel something. Maybe peace on day 3, focus by day 5, connection by the weekend. Let's picture it. Day 1, you're groggy, but you pray, God, thanks for this bed, help me today. You're calmer at breakfast. Day 2, you're rushed, but you squeeze it in. Thanks for my job, guide me. You don't snap at traffic. Day 3, it's easier. Thanks for my kid, lead us. You smile more. By day 7, it's sticking. That's how it grows. Here's a confession. I still skip sometimes. Last week, I dove into emails first. Big mistake. Grumpy all day. But when I do it, night and day. That's my challenge to you. 7 days, no pressure. If it flops, no biggie. If it works, you've got something. Let's zoom out. These benefits, peace, focus, connection, they're not separate. They weave together. Peace helps you focus. Focus deepens connection. Connection brings peace. It's a loop, and it starts with those few seconds in the morning. Nothing fancy, just you, showing up. Why does this beat other routines? I've tried meditation apps, nice but cold. Prayer's warm, it's personal. God's not a technique, He's a friend. That Tuesday, an app wouldn't have sent my buddy with a tire, but prayer tied me to someone who could. Let's circle back to Scripture. Isaiah 26:3. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. That's the deal. Trust Him each morning, and peace follows. Focus flows from it. Connection seals it. One more story. My co-worker, she's not even religious, saw me calmer and asked why. I told her about this. She tried it. Not prayer, just breathing and gratitude. Even that shifted her. Imagine what the real thing does. So, here's the challenge. 7 days, starting tomorrow. Breathe, calm down. Thank, look up. Ask, move forward. Write it down if you want. Day 1, prayed, felt okay. Day 7, check in with me. Leave a comment. I want to hear it. This isn't theory. It's life. That Tuesday proved it. You'll prove it too. Let's wrap this. The benefits aren't out there. They're in you, waiting. Peace when you're frazzled. Focus when you're lost. Connection when you're lonely. It's not about a perfect morning. It's about a better you. Take the 7-day shot. Next, we'll close this video out. But for now, let this sink in. Your mornings can change your days. Start with God and see. Well, here we are. We've made it to the end of day 1. Wow, that was quite a ride, right? We've covered a lot. Why starting your day with God matters. That chaotic Tuesday of mine with the flat tire and chewed up shoes. How to pray with 3 simple steps and what you get out of it. Peace, focus, and connection. If you've stuck with me this whole time, over an hour and a half, give yourself a pat on the back. Seriously, you're awesome. But more than that, I hope you're walking away with something real, something you can hold on to. Let's wrap this up and send you off with a little push to try it yourself. First, let's recap. We started with Psalm 143, verse 8. Let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love, for I have put my trust in you. Show me the way I should go. That's the heartbeat of this whole thing. Mornings aren't just about coffee or chaos. They're a chance to hear God say, I love you, and to say back, I trust you. I told you about my Tuesday, a total mess until I stopped and prayed, God, help me. It didn't fix everything, but it fixed enough. Then we walked through how to do it, breathe to calm down, thank to look up, ask to move forward. And finally, the payoff. A little more peace, a sharper focus, a deeper connection with the one who's got your back. Here's the big takeaway. Faith doesn't have to be loud or complicated. It's not about being a spiritual rock star or having all the answers. It's about showing up, messy, tired, flat tire, and no coffee you, and starting with God. That Tuesday, I wasn't some prayer warrior. I was a guy with coffee grounds on his hands, muttering for help. And it worked. Not because I'm special, but because he is. That's what I want you to hear. This is for you, right where you are, right now. So what's next? Simple. Try it. Tomorrow morning, when your eyes crack open, whether it's 5 a.m. or 10 a.m., take 10 seconds. Breathe, deep and slow. Say, God, thanks for this day. Then, show me the way. That's it. You don't need a quiet house or a perfect setup. Just you and him. Maybe you'll feel something right away. Peace. Maybe a nudge. Maybe you won't. That's okay too. It's not about instant fireworks. It's about planting a seed. I challenged you to 7 days in that last section, and I'm doubling down now. Try it for a week. See what happens. Why just 10 seconds? Because it's a start. I didn't overhaul my life that Tuesday. I just took a shaky step, and step by step, it's grown. Some days, I've got 5 minutes. Others, it's still 10 seconds while the dog's barking. Both count. Faith's not a sprint, it's a walk. And this 30-day journey we're on together, it's about walking it out, one morning at a time. Let's picture it. Day 1 to tomorrow, you pray those 10 seconds. You're groggy, but you do it. Maybe the day's still nuts, but you're a notch calmer. Day 2, you try again. Same steps, a little easier. By day 7, it's sticking. You're noticing the sunrise, or you're less grumpy at work. That's how it builds. And by day 30, who knows? You might be the one telling me your own Tuesday story. Here's why I'm so fired up about this. It's not theory. That Tuesday wasn't a script I wrote. It was real. The tire, the report, my kid's donut question, it happened. And that sloppy prayer in the kitchen, it held me together. If it worked for me, a guy who forgets to pray half the time, it'll work for you. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to begin. Let's get honest. Some of you might be thinking, this sounds nice, but I've got too much going on. I hear you. Life's loud. My mornings aren't all sunshine either. But that's the point. This fits in the cracks. You don't need an hour. You need a moment. And God meets you there. Matthew 11:28. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Weary? Burdened? That's us. And he's waiting, right there in your messy morning. One more thing. You're not alone in this. That's what these 30 days are about. Us, together. I'm not some guru on a stage. I'm figuring it out too. When I skip a day, I feel it. When I don't, I'm better. So, let's do it as a team. Leave a comment below. Tell me how day 1 goes for you. Did you pray? Did it flop? Did you feel something? I'll read every one. I mean it. And if you're in, hit that subscribe button. Day 2's coming, and we're just getting started. What's the worst that can happen? You try it, it's awkward, and you move on. No harm done. But what's the best? You find a little peace you didn't have yesterday. You focus through a storm. You feel God closer than you have in a while. That's worth 10 seconds, don't you think? Let's close with this. Your morning's a gift, not a burden to survive, but a chance to start fresh. Lamentations 3:22-23. His mercies are new every morning. New. Every day. That Tuesday, I didn't deserve a redo. I was a grouch, but God gave it anyway. He's giving it to you too. Tomorrow, and every day after. Starting with Him is how you grab it. So, here's my last push. Tomorrow, do it. Breathe, thank, ask. Then come back. I'll be here for day 2, talking about why faith matters every morning. Bring your coffee, your chaos, your hopes. Bring you. This isn't about me preaching. It's about us growing. Together. Thanks for being here. You could have clicked away an hour ago, but you didn't. That says something. You're ready for more. So, let's take it one day at a time. Sleep well tonight, knowing you've got a plan for tomorrow. A small one, sure, but small's where big things start. See you for day 2. Good night, and God bless.